Hi guys, we are moving on to a new section, so just pause the video quickly, rule off after the last work that you did, and you can write your heading, surface area and volume, and the date. We are on topic 19. Okay, so we are going to start with surface area and then we'll go on to volume in the next lesson. So surface area is when you're talking about the different areas that are put together to form a 3D shape. Okay, so if you have a look at this prism, this is a 3D object. It's a rectangular prism, and it has a surface area, okay, which I'm going to try and figure out. So I know that the shape is made up of two of the same rectangles at the front, two of the same rectangles on the left and right, and then two of the same rectangles top and bottom. Okay, so I can calculate them separately. I can also use a formula for a rectangular prism, which I'll get to later on in this video. Okay, so I'm going to start with working out the area of the front and the back rectangle. Okay, so that will be basically length times breadth times 2, because there's the front and the back. So I'm going to say 8 times 5 times 2, and then from there I can just work out that it's 80 centimeters squared because I'm working with area. Then I can see that that shape also has a left and a right, and if I want to try and figure out what measurements I'm working with there, you can see that the one is 3, so it'll be 3 times this length here, which I can see on the other side is 5. So I'll do the same thing that I did with the front and back. I'll say breadth times height times 2, which will give me 30 centimeters squared. Then I still need to do the top and the bottom. Okay, so that will be that top piece, that top blue piece, and that bottom blue piece. And I can see the measurements there. It'll be 3 times 8 times 2, because there's 2 sides. Okay. I find that that's equal to 48 centimeters. Okay, so if I wanted to now try and find the total surface area, I would just add all of those together. So 80 plus 30 plus 48 will give me 158 centimeters squared. Okay, but I don't want to have to calculate it separately every single time. Okay, now if you haven't written this down, now would be a good time to pause the video, because I'm going to show you the formula now, and it's going to go over the working out. Alright, so I don't want to have to do this working out separately every single time. I want to just plug it into a formula so I can quickly work it out. Alright, so this is what the formula looks like. I'm basically just going to say this top part plus this top part plus this top part, and that's the formula. Alright, so total surface area is equal to 2 times the length and breadth, 2 times the breadth and height, 2 times the length and height. So basically all three of them just get multiplied together and multiplied by 2. Okay, side note, I've called the 3 height, the 8 length, and the 5 breadth. If you did it a different way around, you would still get the same answer as me. Okay, so if I substitute all that in, I get the same thing that I got previously when I did it separately, which is 158 centimeters squared. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like. Oh, that's it. Okay, so there's your formula. 2 times length breadth, 2 times breadth height, 2 times length height. That's your surface area formula for a rectangular prism, if you want to use the formula. Okay, if you prefer breaking it up and calculating it, then that's fine. Okay, so that's rectangular prism. Next heading, please write down triangular prism. That's what we're going to be working on next. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the rectangular prism. I'm going to first show it to you split up, and then from there I'm going to give you the formula. Alright, so I'm going to start with my triangle. So I've got a triangle at the front and I've got a triangle at the back. I know that the area formula of a triangle is a half base times height. Okay, so in this triangle my base will be 5 and my height will be 6. If I work that out, half of 5 times 6 times 2 will be equal to 30 centimeters squared. Okay, I'm timesing it by 2 because there's 2 triangles. Then from there, I've got rectangles all the way around. So if you have a look, I've got this top rectangle here, which I can see the dimensions are 9 times 12. Okay, so basically rectangle area formula, length times breadth, so 9 times 12 will be equal to 108. Okay, notice that I've called it side 1. Okay, I just called it side 1 because it's one of the sides of the triangle. Okay. Then if I try and work out another rectangle in the shape, I've got that back rectangle, which will be 6 times that long length, which I can see on the other side is equal to 12. So 12 times 6. Okay, over here I'm going to say this is another side of the triangle. So side 2 times 12. That will give me 72 centimeters squared. Okay, so I've worked out the top one, the back one. Now I still need to work out that rectangle that's sitting at the bottom of that triangular prism. Okay, so if I do that, I'm basically going to say 5 times 12, so 12 times side 3 of the triangle, which will give me 60 centimeters squared. Okay, now I'm going to put the whole thing together, so pause this if you want to take this down, and then you can unpause to see the full triangular prism formula. But I'm basically going to just put the whole thing together to form one formula that I can use for future prisms. Okay, so if I go and I show the entire formula, it looks something like this. Oh, okay, obviously then you have to still work out your total surface area. So my total surface area will be the areas of the sum of all the areas that I've calculated. So 30 plus 108 plus 72 plus 60 centimeters squared. Okay, and then that gives me 270 centimeters squared. Okay, then I don't want to work it out separately every single time. I just want to plug in the values and then it's easier for me. So I want to just put together some sort of formula that encompasses all of the working out in one step. Okay, and it looks like this. Alright, I'll tell you what it looks like. Okay, so I've got 2 half base times heights. Okay, so I know half base times height, that's my triangle. That came from on top here. So I've got 2 triangles. Then I've got the length of the shape, also known as the big height of the shape. So I've got the length of the shape times by one side of the triangle. The length of the shape times by another side of the triangle. The length of the shape times by the third side of the triangle. Okay, so my triangle lengths were 9, 6, and 5. Okay, if I go back, you can see that. 9, that's 9, 6, okay, you can see it on the other side, and 5. So I'm saying 9 times 12, 6 times 12, 5 times 12. Okay, so that's where these 3 came from. These are the sides of the triangles, just being multiplied by the length of the triangular prism. If I show all of that, I get all of these values that I calculated previously separately, and I find that when I add those together, I get 270 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's your triangular prism. Then the third and the last one that I want to show you in this video is your cylinder. Your cylinder for surface area is probably the easiest one, although it's got a formula that is a little bit more difficult to remember, but if you do remember it, it's very easy. One thing to note with this section is that if you don't know your formulas, you're going to struggle through this section. So please, please, please come up with a way of remembering it. These ones are easy to put together. Your cylinder one, you need to actually just remember. You need to study it before a test because it's not going to be given to you. Okay, so my cylinder, the only 2 dimensions that they'll give you is they'll give you a radius. They might give you a diameter, which then you'd need to halve to get the radius. And they will give you a height, okay, big height. Your formula looks like this. Surface area is equal to 2 times pi times radius multiplied by radius plus height. Okay, so if I sub in all my values, my radius are 3 and my height is 8. And then I literally just plug that into a calculator. 2 times pi times 3 times open bracket 3 plus 8, and I get a whole bunch of decimals, which I will then round off to however many decimals the question asks of me. And usually it's 2 decimals, but just check. And I'm going to round off to 207,35 millimeters squared. All right. Okay, so cylinder is probably the easiest one. Okay, if you're not sure, there is a page in your textbook that has all these formulas, so you can just go and check them. Otherwise, I am going to also put in like a summary sheet on Google Classroom that you can use when you're working all of this stuff out. Alright, for homework, I want you to please do exercise 19.1 on page 224, number 4 and 5. I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. Okay, so it gives you 3 prisms that you have to work out the surface area of. Please take note that it says 4 decimal places. Don't try and do 2 decimal places when it tells you 4. And then they give you this question also about this cylindrical water tank that you also have to calculate the surface area, and you also have to calculate how much paint is needed to totally paint the whole thing twice to the nearest full meter. Alright guys, good luck!